So G485 homework booklet question 19. Fairly straight up and down, how does ultrasound scanning work question. Probably worth learning this one all but, and then being prepared to adapt it depending how they ask a question on ultrasound, if they do in the exam in the summer. So 19A, describe the principles of ultrasound scanning. Principles of scanning means they're not overly bothered about the details. So for example, there's no marks in there for anything relating to impedance matching. So the principles of the scanning: piezoelectric transducer sending a pulse of ultrasound into the patient, or sending pulses. Pulses are reflected at boundaries between different materials. And then there's two kind of questions we can always ask. We can always ask the what's there type question and the where is it type question. So the what's there, well, what we can do is find out something about the boundary, not any individual material. So the intensity of the reflected signal depends on the acoustic impedance of the materials either side of the boundary, and the time delay between that pulse being sent back and being received after it's been reflected can be used to determine the thickness, obviously using the speed and then halving that, because the time for the pulse to go out and back is the time it takes for exactly that, for it to go out and back, rather than simply how far away it is. Any three of those four got you the marks, and then the fourth one was for the correct answer. These pencil marks, it's really worth looking at in your answer. You make it clear how the steps in the process are sequenced. So simply by having three of those in the correct order, presumably either those three or the first two and the last one, gets you that fourth mark. Those, I've said it before, but it's worth saying again, those pencil mark, read those instructions almost as if they're a separate question, and make sure you've addressed what's raised in there. Explain the difference between an ultrasound A scan and a B scan. So an A scan is simply a pulse sent out in one direction and recording the reflected pulses as they come back. Great for finding cracks in rails, take all kinds of measurements of where different boundaries are. What you're most used to seeing is a B scan. A B scan is built up from many A scans where that ultrasound is sent out in different directions. Now those different directions are not because of the operative moving the ultrasound head around. Within the head, within the thing they're holding, there are various ways of sending out the pulses in different directions, and it's building all of those A scans in different directions at different angles, taking all the data from those and using those to build the graph that gives us that B scan that you're most familiar with seeing. So that's G485 homework booklet question 19.